djooma.
What are your plans? I mean, what are your plans for the rest of this week? What are your plans for after camp ends? I mean, do you have plans with your friends? Do you have plans with your family? Maybe you made plans to take a family vacation. I mean, like, I've noticed as humans, we tend to make a lot of plans. Like, even on a daily basis, we may take it for granted, but we make plans for lunch. We make plans to catch up with a good friend. We make plans to sit down and read a book. But sometimes even our best laid plans fail. I mean, sometimes life just gets in the way and there's nothing that you can do about it. I mean, I was thinking the other day about a family member of mine. He was telling me one day, like, he had made plans to go with his wife and his daughter to have a pizza. And he's like, he'd noticed the day before that his throat was getting scratchy and stuff like that, so they decided that on their way out to get a pizza, they'd stop by the doctor just to get things checked out. And he said, I remember the doctor coming back to me and telling me that my worst fears were realized, that I had cancer. And he said, and in that instant, he said all my plans were ruined, and not just the plans to go get a pizza, not just the plans to hang out with his family that night, but his future plans. You know, his plans to see his daughter off to college, his plans to grow old with his wife. In that instant, changed. What are your plans? You know, as humans, we do make a lot of plans. But you know, certainly one of the things that we don't like planning for is our own death. I mean, it's just really not a pleasant thing to plan for, right? But you know, believers and non-believers alike all at some point in time have to deal with a sense of their own mortality. I mean, you know, regardless of what you believe happens to you after you die, 100% of people still believe that they're going to die. And even for those crazy ones that don't, soon enough, they find out the reality of the situation. You see, we all live with a sense of mortality. We all understand that at some point or another our lives are going to come to an end. But few of us live with a sense of eternity. And by that I mean that few people live like what they do today is affecting their eternity. I mean, if you think about it, all the plans that we make, all the schemes that we have are all, you know, thinking about how our future in the here and now is going to be better. You know, we plan for college, we plan for what type of jobs we're going to have. But we really don't make plans, we don't invest in our eternity. And sometimes that blows my mind. But think about it like this. What types of things do you do? What steps do you take if you want to live a long life? Well, you eat healthy, you exercise. Generally, you avoid risky behaviors like smoking or riding a motorcycle without a helmet. But what if living a long life isn't your priority? What if your priority is living an eternal life? Then what kind of changes do you make? Do you give up your gym membership so you can sponsor a compassion child? Do you give up your workout time in order to spend time with God in prayer? Do you give up your risky behaviors that would take away from your faith, that would shake you from the things that you hold most true in your faith? Thank you. You see, we make a lot of plans for the here and now, but sometimes, like I said, our best laid plans often fail. I mean, listen to the words of James. In James 4:13 through 17, he says this: "Now listen, you who say, 'Today or tomorrow we will go to this city or that city,' spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You're a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it's the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast and brag. All such boasting is evil. Anyone then who knows the good he ought to do and doesn't do it, sins. So basically what James is saying here is that we need not be living with a sense of mortality, but rather a sense of eternity. I mean, our lives are finite. They're not infinite. Just like the verse describes there. It describes our lives as being a mist that's here for a little while and then vanishes. So if that's the case, then why are we making plans so much for the here and now and not so much for our eternity? You see, I doubt anybody lived with a sense of eternity better than Jesus himself. And I think that's why as we read through the scriptures, we see him constantly saying things like returning to his Father in heaven and that his kingdom wasn't of this world. I think Jesus, probably better than anyone else, understood what it meant to live a life with a sense of eternity. I think that's why even in scriptures where he's predicting his own death, like in Matthew 16, and he's warning his disciples about what's to come and what will happen to him, about how he'll be turned over and beaten and insulted and ultimately die, that he takes the time even there to warn his disciples to live with a sense of eternity. I mean, listen to Jesus' words in Matthew 16. He says this, "For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will find it. What good will it be for a man if he gains the whole world, yet forfeits his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what he has done." You see, what Jesus is doing here is warning his disciples to live with a sense of eternity. He's saying, look guys, you can gain and attain everything that this world has to offer while you're here. But if you forfeit your soul in the process, then you've lost everything. And I think that's an important lesson for us to walk away with. Is we can strive to make plans for college and careers and what we're going to do for tomorrow. And that's all well and good. But if we forfeit our soul in the process, then really we've lost everything. And that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that living with a sense of mortality, making plans for the here and now, always ends in failure because, at the end of the day, we will all die. We will all come to our end. But living with a sense of eternity, on the other hand, planning for what happens after we die, results in something greater than we could ever imagine. So my prayer for you then is that you begin living today with a sense of eternity. That your actions would be guided by an eternal calling. That you would forget living with a sense of mortality, because everybody does. Everybody lives and we realize that we're going to die. But that you begin living with a sense of eternity and what that means in your life.
How's that for postmodern?